Have you ever lacked the motivation to do what you should do in any given day? In a relationship, in a conversation, you just didn't even want to get out of bed in the morning, or you did, everything was kind of slagging by, and you kind of mail it in. You kind of mail it in at the office, maybe even mail it in your workout if you even did one at all. At the end of the day, how do you feel? If you're anything like me, you feel pretty bad. You still live the same, 15, 16 hours, but you don't really have anything to show for it. Why does that happen to us? Why do we have bad days, and how much of those bad days are our fault, and what can we do about it? So today, Eric and I are going to talk a little bit about core values, why we're here, moving principles that can push us through those moments. We're going to talk about obstacles, how to address some of those obstacles, what they might look like, and ultimately we want to land the plane on tactics and strategies for you as an athlete out in the world. A 90-year-old athlete, 70-year-old athlete, 40-year-old athlete, all the way down to youth athletes. How does this rubber meet the road? And in between, as usual, Eric and I will probably more than likely digress in areas of interest to the two of us, which we hope are also interesting to you. So, Eric, when it comes to that question, I guess for you, and you could expand to people that you coach and you interact with, especially on the days where, man, it's like, you look at that Whoop strap and you get your normal sleep, your 3 hours or whatever it is. Just poke at Eric a little bit. And it's just, you've started the day suboptimal and there's nothing you can do about it. I guess, what do you, 2 or 3 things do you really attach to drive through, and at the end of those days, look back and be like, all right, I did the best I could today and I feel good about it?
Yeah, I think the first thing you got to look at are what are the factors you can control, right? And again, poke at me a little bit here. Sleep will, a lot of you guys that know me know that is the one area that I probably struggle in the most. And for me, it is a lot of hard time just getting myself to go to bed at a certain time, because I do want to get up and I want to get things accomplished. And so when that happens and I get up, and I did actually a span of this last year where I was like, I didn't sleep enough. I'm not going to train today. Well, there went about a 2-month span where I didn't really train, and I could justify it because I was active. But then you start looking at all these other things in your life. What's your mental health like? For me, that exercise actually attributed to the lack of sleep more. When I started exercising again, I was able to exert some of the energy to where at the end of the day, I could go to sleep a little bit easier. And so it's reminding yourself, what are the things that you can control? And so I think when it comes to doing that, you got to take a hard look at what are your values, right? We did that as a staff at the very beginning of the year. And then there was actually a book that I read called Dare to Lead from Brene Brown, right around the same time. And they talk about that. What's your core values? And I remember, I think it was in the book, it was a big long list, and they had you narrow it down to 2. And it came down, and they were separate occasions because I read the book first, but then it came down the same one we did. The 2 big values that hold very true to me are hard work and love, right? I want to express the love in what I do to those around me, the things that I want to do. But at the same time, I want to work hard when I do it, because if I don't, then what am I really doing it for, right? And so for me, when it comes down to, I haven't got enough sleep, but I have these goals. Well, if I really want to pursue these goals, the things I can control that align with my values, maybe I don't have a 2-hour training session that day. Maybe I have a 20-minute training session that day, or a 15-minute training session that day. And maybe that focus and that hard work is put into, I'm going to focus on how well I can have intent in my maybe a mobility session is what my workout is. It's not actually a barbell-based workout, because that's something that's going to help me recover, feel better for maybe the next day, where hopefully I can get some sleep and then attack that workout the way that I'd want to. So I think it comes down to being able to control first the factors that you can control. And I think it should align with what are your values and your priorities, right? Because at the end of the day, fitness needs to be a priority to everyone, but I'm a single male. I don't have a family of 6 kids on the way, right? And so for me, I have a little more flexibility to do certain things that I think allow me to say, okay, well, I can justify going an hour because I don't have those. But someone that has a family that they got to deal with, and they say, I only got 15 minutes, I can squeeze it in. Well, what's 15 minutes you can do? But I think it's what's the prioritization around the things that you can control.
I think take us into, hard work and love. All right. So talk about a moment or a time, if you can, where the only reason you did it Like the only reason you took the right turn instead of the left turn was because, all right, remember, man, like, because why I'm asking that question. I think a lot of people like listening, I know I'll just speak for myself. I get to those moments where it's happening in those dark times of the day, which you're just by yourself. It's that moment where you can go back to doing nothing. You can half-ass it, or you can like buckle down, like Jocko Willink, for those who know Jocko Willink and all that, those different folks out there, just get after it. No, like discipline equals freedom. I'm going to dial in. I'm going to make it happen. But in that moment, I just think that most of us find ourselves really exposed, really fragile. We feel weak. We want to accommodate ourselves. And that part of our brain that comes up with, it has like a million outs for us. There's all these excuses. Well, I'm tired. It's a lot, but today's been a lot. I know it's not supposed to drink today, but it's 5 and some people are going out for happy hour. And like, it's just so much easier to accommodate that voice than it is. No, remember in that moment where you were almost at 100% with a bunch of people that were like-minded, doing a deliberate exercise, you picked hard work and love. Like that voice seems so small in those moments, which is why a lot of people, I'm sure their intention is, these are my values. Great. Let's look at the video of your life over the last week. And they'd be like, scrub. Well, hey, walk us through what's happening here. It would be embarrassing, I think, to like most of us when compared against that. So take us to a situation, if you're even thinking of one, where you really had to dial into that and it was hard. And maybe one where even if you failed at it, that's fine too.
I think the hard-working one's a little easier for me, because for me at the end of the day, I ask myself, how bad do you really want it? Right? And if I really want it, then I'm going to find a way to make it fit it into my day. And then I have also kind of like back plans, right? So if I plan to work out at 11 o'clock in the morning, but something happens and comes up, well, I know that I need to get this in. You caught me at the end of this yesterday. I was training last night at about 9 o'clock in the gym by myself.
He was witness.
Yeah. So someone pulled up and I'm like, who's pulling in the gym? I'm meant to be here alone right now. But that's one of the things for me. And again, that's where I don't have a family that I have to go home to. I have no one I've got a dog. I love him, but his food he still got fed on time. You know what I mean? So, it allows me some of that freedom to do that. I think in regards to holding to that, what helps hold me to that too as well, my brother, he's a strength conditioning coach at Westdale High School and then coach with us as well at the Arsenal. But every day he sends me his videos of his training. And so, it's not anything that I think is meant to be like, I'm working harder than you, but it's just that reminder like, hey, I'm sitting here doing it because we both have, high level goals with certain things in our training. And so it's that reminder like, hey, I'm here working, are you? And that's something that I would be interested to hear. I don't remember exactly what his values were, but I believe hardworking's, I would be willing to bet it's a top 3 to 5 for sure. So it helps having others around as well that have similar values that give you that reminder. We use the term in fitness a lot of times, the accountability buddy. So being able to have someone, if you have those moments maybe that like, man, I'm just struggling, like you just reach out to them. It doesn't even have to be like, hey, I need motivation, send me something. Like you just start talking to them and it's that reminder, because that's what a big part of what my brother does with me when we start talking training. So having that reminder regularly helps me stay on top of it. I think, the other thing, I don't remember where I heard this or where I read this from. It might have been something you said to me in passing. I'm pretty sure I read this in a book, but it was like when we have that split decision of like, do I go to the gym and spend an hour there? Or do I just go to the bar with my buddies and I drink for, the night I'm done? You really don't, it's not that hard of a decision if you just make the decision right away, because once you make the decision and act upon it, then you start moving in that direction and it doesn't feel that overwhelming, right? But it's generally I think it was a 9-second is what the average was, like a 9-second window where you had, if you sit here and you think about it, if you just pick one and roll with it, that tends to go on the back burner and then you have positive momentum going in the direction that you chose, right? And so if I choose to go with my buddies, I forget about the workout in that moment, and that, that time with my buddies helps get rid of that. But then does that lead to what I want to do with the rest of my life the next day following, right? If I have goals and priorities, then going out with my buddies that's relative to my health and fitness isn't going to help with that, right?
Well, and I think that you brought up 2 things. First of all, I think you picked the softball there with hard work, because I think you're a workaholic anyway. So I think that's an easier one. Like I think you wake up out of bed and think like, what kind of suffering can I endure today for some kind of purpose? So it's probably an easier one for you between like love. How do I love myself in this moment? We'll get to bed early. Don't finish this thing. Do that and stop. I'm only saying that because I'm a card carrying member where it's like, it's so much easier to suffer for a cause and you're doing something. Like I think I'd rather be like worn out, dropping dead at the end of the day than, well, got a lot of gas in the tank. Glad I saved it up for... it's just not a good feeling.
Yeah.
But you added another element there, which is like partners, team. In there. I think that's something that is cool about what we've experienced at the Arsenal with our athletes is if you think about like the influence of a coach, it's great. You see coaches every single day, but the team/partner effect, I think has actually more efficacy in terms of building that bond. And also there's a term, I don't think I came up with it, but it's like proximity effect when you talk about you and your brother or you and the friends that go to the bars, which might be completely cool people. It's just what is your proximity effect. And you probably heard this like, hey, you show me the average of the 5 people you hang around with. I know you. There's some truth to that saying where are you being strategic? Here we go into strategies and tactics, going back to core values. If you're thinking about here's how I want to live on these days, your core values aren't for the best version of you. They're for the crap version of you that has done and said the dumb things, has done the not things. Like that's what our core values need to be, which is why I'm like, as we're revisioning our core values at the Arsenal, like I just don't like the one integrity or I don't like give your best. Because those should be like, it's sad that you have to say that as a human being. And I think that they should go deeper. And if you think about like, what's the worst version of us? Come up with a couple values for that to address it, to tag on. So you have rungs in that moment to get out that are like near your hands. And they're not so far away that you're like, I'm not that. I don't even know what to do, but they're like, you can behaviorally act on them. So if we go down, if you're listening, if you think about a strategy, think about that rule of 5 partner team or that proximity effect, whatever you're listening to from what you're sharing, Eric, because there, when you're in your best state, let's say whoop strap wise, like hashtag whoop, you're in like, 60% or above state where you can think clearly, whatever. That's the time to think about what do I value? Where do I want to elevate to? Like, because we could talk, you and I could probably talk about goals for 6 days and not run out of time. But you want to go to that next level. The quickest way to find it, and we talk about this often, is who's already there. And if you can't find anybody already there, who's on that road that's going there? And no, that's the proximity effect, because the other piece is you shared, Eric, was, hey, send me some motivation, send me something, Brandon, like about this. You need to be getting and having interaction with somebody that you'd be embarrassed to disappoint. That you'd be embarrassed to say, you know what, I picked this low road instead of this high road. Like they won't give you that out. So it's kind of like these cheat codes that you build into your life. And your core values are those, like for you, it's hard work and love. Figuring out how do I operationalize those in my life. So let's talk more about obstacles. So you've coached for how long, Eric?
I turned 36 this year. I started coaching, programming, just kind of friends, family, things like that at about 19. Professionally, I had my first fitness job at 23. And so I guess you could say,
aren't you embarrassed of that guy now?
Just thinking I am. I'm very. I remember the first job, I thought I knew it all. After I was done and I went out, because I was a little more of a nerd than my peers on the exercise side. And I was an athlete too, so like there's a lot of personal interest in it. I dove down that rabbit hole to become the best athlete I could. But it was one of those things that, looking back now, I'm just like, God, I thought I knew it all at the time. And now I'm like, I don't know anything. But it's just funny how things come back around.
So in all those years, you're 36 years old, basically ancient at this point. You're
like, technically still 35. We're
35, sorry. You're getting ahead of yourself.
A couple months away.
So talk about, I want you to speak to the person listening to this who is, let's say, 38 to 53. Someone in that ballpark, male or female. And what are some of the typical obstacles that you've seen people struggle with? Not to make the decision to train with you. The decision to be consistent and keep going. So if you could think of some stories or some patterns that you've seen that might connect with people that they did start already. They had the motivation. They were past that. They just can't get it together. What are the typical excuses that you hear people come up with, and how have you helped them address it?
Yeah, I think, the easy start is kind of, I was talking about earlier, family, right? You've got people that, you got multiple kids and you got to drive them around to sports and athletics and things like that, that make it a little more difficult with a schedule, and you've got, holidays and travel and things like that, that are an easy out, and you start getting momentum that direction where you're out of the gym, it's easy to fall off. I think a lot of it for me, and what I've seen success in with people, is letting them know, like, it still needs to maintain a priority, but you need to make sure there's alignment in your priorities. A lot of people think that when they come in the door that the gym needs to be their number one priority, and it probably shouldn't. You know what I mean? If you have a family of 4, 5, 6 children, if you've got a lot of things going on in your life, stress outside through work, it may not be your number one priority, but it needs to stay on that list, right? And if it falls off that list, that's where, other things start falling apart. Because I believe personally that a lot of things that you do in your fitness carry over into your day-to-day. The energy and the effort you put in will translate into energy and effort you put into other things in your life. Not only that, you're able to have more sustained energy from being healthier and fitter, to exert more in your day. So I think the big thing for people is finding a way to keep it a priority is the big one, and letting them know that it doesn't need to be the number one, but you need to keep it on that list.
What else is on the problem list, though? You gave us family.
Yep.
We're busy. And you gave us holidays, travel. Yep. What other nonsense have people told you when it's just I just can't make it in? I'm talking to people that like have week-long or 2-week-long lapses.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the best way to go here. You get a lot of different ones. I would say the big one that we get is people just being tired from work, right? Or lack of energy, to even be able to make it in. Time is generally, like I said, the big one, but you can always find ways to fit that in.
So let's break them down.
Yeah.
So I'll let you pick. We have family, holidays, and travel, tired from work, lack of energy, and I just don't have the time this week. Just didn't have the time this week. Which one of those should we tackle first?
Let's do the time first.
Okay, so here I am. I'm in with Eric. I've been really killing it for like 2 or 3 months. I got a real rhythm, and I just don't show up for like a week and a half. And then Eric, hey BJ, what's going on? He calls me, which he does, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's just time. It's just crazy. What do you do with me?
I see what I ask what's your schedule like, and then I see literally any pocket you have available. For me as a coach, one of the things I've thrived on is being able to find those little pockets and be like, what, if we can only get in 2 days this week and it's 5:30 in the morning, we're doing 5:30 in the morning. Like, you're getting your ass there. Sometimes you have to, and this, we talk about this, you got to almost put a hard, what's the word I'm looking for? Investment into it, right? And so if I'm getting up at 5:30 and you know that I'm going to be there at 5:30 and show me, guess who's going to be really pissed, right? Guess who's not going to be real happy? Me. And then also you, because I'm going to not show you necessarily my anger, but I'm going to reset at another 5:30 a.m. because I want you to come back in. And I'm going to pretend almost like it didn't happen until it happens multiple times, and then I may be at your doorstep at 5:30 in the morning.
Get in.
Yep, get in.
We're going.
Yeah, we're going. But I think a lot of that comes down to, finding someone, when it comes to time, finding someone that can help you fit it in. If you are really like, I just don't have time, like, find someone that helps you be objective. Because it's really, if you're saying that you don't have time, you don't have 30 minutes in your day somewhere from the minute you wake up to the minute that you go to sleep, that you could do something.
I like that. I like that. Find someone to help you be objective, because I think that's one of the things that we're trying to optimize for to improve the environment for our athletes is to have coaches that are going to push back on you as it relates to the head trash that you get into, because the people that train with you, I know, aren't people that are not like, well, I'm completely unsuccessful and I'm completely unmotivated and here's where I want to start. By the way, if you are, this is definitely a great place to be, but odds are really good. We're meeting with people and working with a lot of people that have achieved some level of mastery, some level of excellence, or some level of success in other aspects of their life. So there's a reason why they know that they're not optimal and fit. They know, which is why you come to get high caliber coaching, influence, programming, training, support, the whole nine. And I love how he brought up that like sense of like using a constraint, like using something like, hey, I'm going to be there at 5:30. Like you just obligate, you constrain yourself to a time, and now like you can't just call back and be like, oh, well, you know, I overslept. Like now someone else's time is going to be a burden. Same thing with investment of money, where, you know, there's a lot of businesses, they'll remain unnamed, that make a lot of money off of unused $15 a month gym memberships, which, by the way, it's not their fault that people don't use those gym memberships. It's an amazing business model. The equipment stays nice and fresh and new. It's beautiful. And then finding someone to help you be objective, dialing back into that. I mean, in my world, at Advisa, where I'm working, that's the almost biggest asset that I am. And not being objective and thing where I'm like, hey, Eric, here's what you should do. Here's what you should be thinking. It's more about asking questions where I'm going to go back to what you started with. Like, hey, why'd you start this in the first place? Like, you seem like you're trying to explain something away. Like, why? Like, it's your life. It's your company. It's your, like, whoever I'm dealing with. And it just helps us get into the fact, like, me knowing that you're off base isn't important. You recognizing that you're rationalizing. Or let's just say you're not rationalizing. Maybe there are real reasons, family, time, I'm tired, but you're over rationalizing. I literally have no time. First of all, use the word literally, which, by the way, my kids love to overuse. None, huh? I mean, it's just some of this stuff is hyperbole that people get caught into. And I think that's the reason why they're not experiencing the level of fitness. And when we say fitness, by the way, I probably should clarify. I'll talk about what I mean when I say it. Maybe, Eric, you can just justify it. We're not talking about you look like a bodybuilder. We're talking about you wake up in the morning and your default mode is I feel good. The second thing that happens when you wake up is I have actual energy before I start medicating myself, you know, with coffee or whatever else I need to get going. By the way, for those that look at Eric and I, we know we already have the energy. We just like it. And it's better than addictive hard drugs that get you this much going. So like a nice cup of black coffee, it just feels good to go above and beyond. Maybe not productive, but it feels good. Not. We can debate that later. Almost losing my train of thought. But I think that where I wanted to land is like, I have these values. I want to go in and be this. I want to get fit. You are going to run into problems, by the way. It's not a panacea. It's like where we're like a professional, where it's like most people take care of most of our work stuff for us. So we can just go and train 3 hours a day, whatever we want, with all of our coaches. Then I go meet with my nutritionist, and then I go pick up from my personal chef. That, by the way, that'd be really easy. But the fitness that we're looking for and the fitness we're trying to get to, like it seems like, Eric, people are very, very close if we can nip these excuses in the bud. We could start resetting new patterns of behavior that if you have 2 days a week, or what's 2 days a week? You're talking about 2 days a week for like the next 6 months. It's not like 2 days a week next week. And then the whole time you're seeing that progress, and we're selling you on, imagine what a third day might look like. Imagine how much more progress is. Like in a month, we actually do 3 times what we've done so far. How do you think, are you feeling better? I'm feeling more energetic. Are you feeling like, how do you feel when you get out of bed in the morning? How's that elbow feeling? Actually, dude, man, it feels like butter. It feels great. Like, what were those next 3 goals that you wanted? Oh, I wanted to do this. I want to do that. I want to be able to lift my grandson up. Or I want to do those other things. Like, we're attaching the word fitness. I know I sidetracked a little bit there, to real life outcomes that improve my interactions with my family. Improve, like, where do I want to go on for vacation? And for some members that come in, I don't want to wear a t-shirt in the pool. Like, that's a real outcome that's going to affect your travel. Tired. Like, you're not getting younger. So, and who keeps coming into work? The work environment. Younger and younger people with more and more energy, with less family obligations than you. What are you going to do to keep up? I'm just going to keep grinding harder. But you just told me before you already don't have any time. So it sounds, for me, I know, and I'd love to hear your definition, where else you take it, is the premium to me is if I'm fit, I have optimal or beyond optimal amount of energy reserves to draw from, to distribute however I want to, instead of stuck with the I have to's because I have no time, I'm too damn tired, and all those other pieces. What would you add or highlight on that definition of fitness?
Yeah, so I think there's one thing you just added right there on that I can or I have to. I think one, it's a mindset, right? I think that in itself is a totally different training mentality of learning to teach yourself that I get to do something rather than I have to do something. because that's just a matter of perspective, right? I'm not saying it's the easiest thing. I still find myself struggling with that at times, but being able to, at the end of the day of the gym, when I'm leaving, and I think this leads into kind of linking the values as well. Tuesday's a good example of this. Tuesdays, I have a very, because I don't do as much one-on-one coaching now, but I kind of jam pack a lot of it into one day. Or I have a lot of clients that I see on Tuesdays, and then Ball State Barbell Club's on Tuesday. There's just a lot going on. So I have my first client at 5:30 a.m. Ball State Barbell Club ends around 8:30 or 9 p.m. I have a few breaks in and out of there, but it's a very long day. And so I'm one of the last ones leaving the gym, one of the first ones in the gym. And when I walk out at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I'm very tired. But every time when I'm walking out the door and I look back and I see the empty gym, I just think how much I love this place and how much the work itself actually fulfills me. And so if you're regularly doing things that take energy out of you and you're not fulfilled back by them, yes, you should be tired from it, right? You exhausted energy and passion in what you do. But if it doesn't also fill that cup when you go back to sleep, given you're getting enough of it, or even that, you can use that argument because we know I don't get enough of it, but I still fill that cup with that, right? And it's something that I love what I do, and no matter how tired I am at the end of the day, it continues to bring me energy because I have passion for it. So I think when it comes to fitness too, CrossFit is not for everyone. I often joke a lot, I do CrossFit, but I'm a weightlifter at heart. And I say I do enough CrossFit to maintain head coach title at a CrossFit gym, right? But I love CrossFit. I love it. What's for weightlifting. I was talking to one of our other coaches about this today. Weightlifting, I think it was 8 to 10 years ago, I think they had somewhere between 2,000 to 4,000 registered members in USAW. And I believe it's upwards of 25 to 30,000 now. And if I travel and I want to go do Olympic weightlifting somewhere, there's about a 98% chance I'm dropping into a CrossFit gym, right? And so I have a deep love for it and a passion for it, and it continues to fulfill me because it's something that gets people exposed to Olympic weightlifting, right? But at the end of the day, Olympic weightlifting is probably my number one favorite personal modality. I love it all. I love toying in it. I always say I'm a big kid in a big playground at the gym. I like to play in all the sports. But the one that I tend to favor is that one. I think finding something that you have more passion towards is also something that's going to help keep you engaged and fulfill that energy bucket a little bit more, as well as, keep that interest level and that engagement in there. It keeps it a little bit higher of a priority as well. And so if you don't enjoy what you're doing for fitness, if you come in and you're like, God, that workout sucked, which we often say that at the end of a CrossFit workout, but at the end of the day, when we say that sucked, we also have a smile on our face and we're ready to come back and do it again the next day. If you literally feel like that sucked, I don't ever want to do that again, and you feel that way, choose a different modality. It's not sustainable, right? Even if it's maybe the optimal situation, optimal training for the results you want to deliver, if you can't buy into it, it's not sustainable, right? Sustainability beats out optimization all day long. And so I think that's where it comes down to being able to, when it comes to physical fitness, because that's where we're linking back to, what is your goals, right? For me, I've been a competitive strength athlete. When I was a competitive weightlifter, I qualified at a national level as part of a team, a national level team. It hurt to bend my knees in the morning. My back woke up with about a 5 to 7 out of 10 pain every day. But when I warmed up and I got moving, I was strong and I could move a lot of weight and I could move it well and I could move it fast. But that also took away from a lot of other things in my life, right? You exert so much energy into that and the recovery and the mobility and the meal prep that, you let relationships suffer. You let, career suffer, things like that. And so you have these trade-offs. For me now, my fitness looks a lot more about how do I feel when I get out of bed, right? I have significantly less back pain and I have a team of people on top of things that I'm doing myself that help me do that. It's not me just doing it my own. And so I think that goes back to having others that help you too. I think that it has to align with where your goals are though. My goal is no longer to be a competitive fitness athlete. So to think that I'm going to come in and I'm going to squat and be as strong and fit by your standards of time, strength, intensity, all those measures, I don't know that I'll ever reach that again. Maybe, deep down, I think I will, but at the same time, it's not worth the trade-off. If I have to go back to that amount of time and energy investment, it's not worth it to me. So I think it's a matter of what's the priority that you want in your fitness and what's that look like.
Well, and I think you hit on two things I want to talk about. I want to go back to CrossFit, and I want to go back to what people think is a CrossFit synonym, which is injuries. But before I do that, I want to talk about goals. you brought up goals, and you brought up priorities, and you brought up passion, and you brought all those different pieces. I think the way that I look at it, and I'd like that our best athletes, the ones that have, are the ones that dial in to very clearly define near-term results, 2 or 3 week results, 3 or 4 month results, but also annual, 5-year, 10-year, 30-year, 40-year, 50-year, where an athlete, if I'm coaching Eric, we're not having him do too much in that like high intensity performance stage that's going to sidetrack all the other goals, assuming he's going to live till he's 80, 90 years old. So I think that there's a way that, but I think when you say that, some people think that you're punting on short-term performance results. Yeah. And I think that in a certain sense, could you be? Yes, but if you're going all the way up to the point of injury, you might be right up until that moment. Yeah. And then you're immediately completely wrong because everything you did up to that point is erased completely. A year's worth of work, 2 years worth of work. We see this in Olympic season, Olympic athletes, where it's like it's all up to that moment and it's all over. And their lives just fall apart. Yep. They had no balance. Were they holistically fit? No. Not even close. They were massively imbalanced in so many different ways. So a healthier way to break it down when you think of why am I here? What are my core values? How am I training in all the different attributes of my life to elevate me to those values, especially when I'm at my worst? How do I get fit? And we could be financial fitness, relationship fitness, mental health fitness, spiritual fitness, physical fit. Like I think there's just so many more buckets that when people are rolling around, you see someone in a totally dope car. It's like, man, look at that car. Look at that. And then you see somebody get out, and I'm like, keep it. You can keep the car. I'm like, that just looks awful. That looks like a painful existence. And I'm glad you have the Bugatti because, that would hurt. Yeah. Right. So I think that piecing out that goes a long way to, number one, start eliminating these problems where it's like you think about no excuse people. And we know we have more than a handful at the Arsenal. It's like they are there, rain or shine, whether we're opened or closed, they're there. And you're like, geez, oh man, like what's going on? These are normal people. Yes. And you elevate them and you think like, oh, you're this, you're that. It's human. Like we can normalize just about any damn thing if you're listening to this, anything. And if you do it incrementally in a smart way with the proximity effect, get yourself around people, join a gym. If you're listening somewhere else, like join our gym, it'd be awesome. But if you're not there, join something, pair up with somebody, do the things that Eric just said, like understand your priorities in tangible, real terms. Yeah. What's my priority in a given day? How long am I standing at a desk? When do I stop doing something? When do I start a project or start an email or start something where I know I can actually finish it, then transition to somewhere else? My like a place to get a good meal, a healthy meal, go home to see my family before I might have something later that day. I think the recipe for fitness to live up to our core values more often than not is great because the alternative sucks. If you live in the obstacles and it's like, yeah, everything for my family, and you're a perfect living example of what you wouldn't want any of your kids to look like, to act like, to be like, overworked, like undertrained, like it doesn't. That's not going to click if you're a parent because your kids are looking at you. They're not looking at like an athlete on the screen. LeBron James is not who their mom and dad is. You are, and that proximity affects our kids too. Same thing with all the things that involve energy and time. Yeah. It's amazing how more and more when I've worked with people that we've installed these micro habits, like 3 minutes here, 1 minute there, these little things just daily. Without effect, it's just such a micro amount of time. It's amazing how much more time we created. Isn't it remarkable how you've experienced that where it's like, so when that person, how are they fit? They end up being fit everywhere else because a better version of them showed up to the table. And even when they're tired, where it's like 20% you couldn't even have been there that day. But now 20% you has all these habits in place that literally buoys you up on those days. And I think that's what we're trying to... what we're talking about when it comes to core values, working through the obstacles and having the tactics and strategies in place that work for people in the real world with real families and what have you, but still being able to do you in a playground, like do the cool barbell work, being really, really strong masters athlete and beyond. it's the same principles of being a good 18 to 25-year-old athlete.
Yep.
And sometimes you can do even cooler things for a lot of ways, because training years, that's a real thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a big real thing. And I just started like goofing around coaching pole vault again. And I got out there and it was amazing. I hadn't touched a pole in 18 years. And I got back out there, like didn't miss a beat. My run, my skip, everything was already there. I'm like, like I thought I would never be able to do this again. But as we tie some of this together, I do want to tag injuries.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the obstacles and problems we didn't bring up, because it's not an excuse. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Absolutely. And when we think about a gym like ours, weightlifting, don't weightlift. Don't just get a hernia. That's dangerous. Don't lift too much weight now, for whether it's that or sports performance. I don't want my kids like lifting heavy weights. Like I don't want them doing too much. I want to look out for their knees and their growth plates. Like that's going on. Or our favorite, I don't want you doing CrossFit, like everyone's shoulders just turn to crap, like your shoulders and your elbows are just going to be gone. You might as well just sign your death certificate. You're going to be going to get surgery. So in that case, a lot of what we're talking about once you get into the gym is our minimum standard is to prevent injuries, to prevent surgeries, it's preventative maintenance, so you feel awesome all the time. But talk to me, Eric, about the connection between a lot of the deliverables that you work with and what we coach and injuries. How do they cause injuries, and what context do they cause injuries, and how can we provide those things in ways that actually prevent them?
Yeah, I think before I even go that route, I think something to even frame up is, you talk about hernias and people with shoulder issues and things like that. I mean, to be honest, and this is totally subjective, I don't have any evidence to back this to 100%, but most of the people I know that had a hernia or the more serious shoulder issues are generally people that don't work out or are not working on their fitness regularly. That happens from things that happen in their day to day. And I would argue more often than not, you can attribute that to lack of strength or lack of ability to handle the stress that popped it in the moment. Right. I think, remind me, what was the question? And I just lost it.
I talked about just when it comes to either CrossFit, weightlifting,
injuries,
sports performance.
Yep.
Where do injuries happen?
Yep.
Like, how do they happen? Because they do.
Yep.
Like, it's
Absolutely.
real.
Yep.
And when, in your approach and how we look at things, how do we minimize or get rid of it?
I think the big thing for people to understand, when you're going out and you're doing anything, we're placing stress on the body, right? You have so much stress the body can handle depending on the task at hand. And so you do have a risk of injury on anything you do physically. So when you come to the gym, I can't promise you that you're not going to get hurt. But I will tell you there's a much greater or much less of a risk of injury when you're training under a trained professional who understands movement, right? Because when it comes down to injuries, generally more often than not, it is due to poor movement ability, maybe lack of range of motion, lack of stability, and generally it's a buildup over time. It's not that one instance that it pops. So, someone may hurt their back on a deadlift. Well, yeah, that one deadlift is what was the icing on the cake, but it was the 1,000 rounded back deadlifts you did before that put you in that situation that your back couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. If you deadlift really, really well and you have a heavy deadlift that causes some round in the back, your back's trained to handle that, And so I think when it comes to avoiding injuries, it's making sure that you are objective and you have a true base level. You know what that base level is, and then you progress at a rate that your body can handle. And again, this is much easier under a trained professional. It's what I've spent several years of school and personal nerdy education to learn, right? I think it's something that if you don't understand that, you run that high risk because you catch a little positive momentum by just going. And you're like, I want to go harder and I want to do more and I want to do better. And that's generally where it starts happening. We see this a lot, or I've seen this the last decade in CrossFit personally, generally with people, and I won't say just CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, anything. When you start catching the itch, you catch a little success with it and you're like, I want to run with this. You get generally 1, 2, maybe 3 years in as you've built a good base. But you start to think, well, I'm stuck, or I've got to do more. I've got to go harder, and understanding that may not be the best route for the goal. I may need to actually recover more to train harder in the few sessions that I do rather than train more frequently. It may not, it may be flipped, but that's where it's having a objective discussion and look at what you're doing and what fits best to sustain it, not optimal.
Well, and I think where I've experienced problems. Like I haven't had any major injuries due to like CrossFit, but if you think about some of the places it happens, Olympic weightlifting in Metcon and pull-ups are like the two areas it happens. And I just try to think, like I just tweaked my neck like mildly 2 days ago doing push presses. Okay, are push presses dangerous? No, I didn't put clips on because I was in a hurry and the plates slid out and they adjusted. So is that the push press's fault or even my movement's fault? Wrong. My body saved me. It pulled it back in. The fault was in my prep for that. I didn't have the equipment preset. And you can see this thing with people not tying their shoes or something like that. I turned my ankle on this run. Like your shoe, you had one shoe tied or you didn't wear shoelaces because you thought it looked cool or something. There's a lot of that. And there's a lot of ego, capital E-G-O, where it's embarrassing to not be doing, I can do pull-ups. No, you can do 4 really well. And they look great.
50. Yeah.
And it's like, it's people get drawn in. So I think the threat is always, especially those listening that are in any kind of group training, is ensuring that you're able to check in with yourself enough to not overreach. They call it like, we just got done reading as a group, the Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler, that 4% challenge zone, where I almost want to make a t-shirt that is like, the pursuers of the 4%, where if you stay within the 4%, there is no injury in the 4%. But if you increase it by multiples, by adding stupid decisions that are 100% preventable, you are well into 60% danger zone that was 100% preventable. And it's the bigger the classes you go to or the more classes they run. And honestly, the less trained and equipped the coaching staff is to catch these things and be able to pull somebody who's older than them, who it looks more trained, or even like the fit person at the gym. Off, hey, whoa, what's going on? And like Eric's called me on this, like, hey, what's going on with your left arm? Like, what are you talking about? Like I can see your favoring on there, and like, what do? I jump off and I'll do something, whatever you tell me to do, I do it. And I just stop and everyone looks and it's an opportunity to be like, what's he doing? Why is he doing seated like chin-ups? Or why is he doing cheated? Like, because I can still move well throughout the correct stimulus that this workout requires to get the result. And you knew how to do it in like 10 seconds. Here's what we're going to do instead. And I think that's, if we would tie together what prevents injuries, I think it's a lot. It's an art and science. Yeah. Because you can't control my ego. Because any other given day, maybe I could do everything. So I might not even be worth watching. Yeah. And you got a lot of new people. And I always joke about the new people. They're not lifting very much. So if they're getting a few things wrong right here, risk reward is real low. Like we don't have to worry about it. But an intermediate athlete could be a gigantic pain in our ass. Yeah. Because looking left and right, I'm superior. Whereas relative to what it's supposed to look like, your movement's still probably maybe at like 50% what it should be. And we add more weight, the risk increases substantially when they're doing it. So I guess as we tie this together, we talked, what ground did we cover, Eric? We talked about kind of core values, the motivating factors of why we're here, like programming for the worst versions of ourselves. We talked through some common obstacles as you've listened to this that you might have run into, like what's the kind of excuse casserole I eat from to prevent doing things that I know are preventing me from being more fit or obtaining mastery in something that maybe I haven't. Easy to look at, but I'm financially successful, and like I have a ton of friends, right? Like you can have it all. You really can. Yeah. And then we got specifically down into some tactics and some strategies, like using constraints, getting somebody else that's objective to help you be objective. Prioritizing, doing something more small to stay on that list in conjunction with some kind of coach. And we tagged shortly, but we'll probably get into this in another podcast later, modes of training that we prefer, particularly at the Arsenal under your counsel, Eric, when it comes to weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting in particular, youth sports performance, as well as CrossFit group training. So any other departing words for the listeners before we wrap up?
I think the big thing is just really make sure you have some strong core values and then hold yourself accountable to those. And if you have a hard time with that, for me, there's certain areas I know that I have accountability issues because I like always trying the new thing. Have someone that's there to help you. I think those are two of the big takeaways. If someone can do that, I think you'll be able to create some positive momentum. And the more you can build positive momentum, you can just keep rolling off of that.
Awesome. So if I'm listening and I want help with this today, how do I get in touch with you? How do I get in touch with the gym? What's the easiest way to do it?
Yes, you can go to our website, munciecrossfit.com. On there is a little drift chat that links up with me. Make sure if you do go to that, because I'm not available at all times on there, but it sends me a message for me to link back with you. If you don't put an email in there, I cannot respond to you unless you're going to sit there and wait for however long for me to get back on. So, or you can reach out to our social media on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn as well. You'll get Coach Emily or I most likely on one of those. And if you're really ready to get started, we have a Get Started Today button on our website. Right at the top of it, this says Get Started Today. You fill out your name. It gives you an appointment time that you can set what works best for you, and then we'll get rolling.
What's that cost me?
It depends on what option you're looking for.
So it doesn't cost me anything to just come in?
Just come in for the business.
Okay.
Nope. We have a couple different options. The big thing when you come in for that is we're trying to assess what are you looking for? What's the needs that you have? What are the goals that you have? And then do we offer that? Do we offer some type of modality that can help accommodate what you're looking for?
Awesome.
We're not for everyone, but I'll let you know we're for most.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, brother. Take care,
Thank you.
everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yep.